In Ecuador, the period to define the candidacies for the early general elections of August 20th ends this Saturday. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro and ICC prosecutor Karen Khan signed an agreement for the creation of a technical assistance office to strengthen the nation's justice system. And in Romania, thousands of teachers took to the streets of Bucharest to protest against low pay after 3 weeks of general strike. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The deadline for parties, movements, and political groups in Ecuador to nominate their candidates for the August 20th presidential and legislative election expired this Saturday. The political groups have until this Saturday to make official their participation in the electoral process, establish their alliances, and carry out their internal primary elections. On the other hand, they have until June 13th to register their candidates in the computer system of the National Electoral Council. The president of the electoral agency, Diana Adamain, announced on Friday that there are about 220 requests for assistance from political organizations to carry out the primaries at national level, and said that about 50% of these organizations have not finished their candidates' selection processes. One of the main expectations is focused on the presidential ticket of the Citizen Revolution movement led by former President Rafael Correa. The Ecuadorian justice ordered the restitution of the political rights of former Vice President Jorge Glas so that he can participate in the early election scheduled for August 20th. The ruling was issued by the judge of Yaguachi's multi-competent judicial unit, John Rodriguez Mindiola, after receiving a request for the precautionary measures in favor of the former Vice President. Mindiola ordered the official notice to be sent to the National Electoral Council and to the Ministry of Labor in order to remove the prohibition to exercise public office that weighs on Glas. The precautionary measures will remain in force until the electoral agency delivers the President and Vice President credentials, which will take place on November 30th. Colombian authorities confirmed that 4 children who had been missing for 40 days in the jungle after the plane in which they were traveling crashed were found alive. President Gustavo Petro confirmed that the minors were rescued after the small plane in which they were traveling crashed over the Amazon. The head of state wrote in his Twitter account that this rescue is a joy for the whole country. The 4 children, who are siblings of 4, 9, and 13 years old, and an 11-month-old kid, were accompanied on the trip by their mother and 2 other adults, who died as a result of the accident. The incident occurred on May 1st when the authorities arrived at the accident site. They only found the corpses of the adults. There was no trace of the children, so an intense search was initiated by the Army and indigenous people, which culminated with the discovery of the children, who are currently receiving medical attention in San Jose del Guaviare, the nearest city. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and International Criminal Court prosecutor Karen Khan signed in Caracas an agreement for the creation of a technical assistance office to strengthen the capacities of the Venezuelan justice system. The prosecutor explained that the technical assistance will allow Caracas to do more to fulfill its obligations under the Rome Statute, while his specialists will be able to help in the judicial reforms that the country wants to implement. The document also includes the training of professionals and key actors in the field of justice and to bring the experience of the International Criminal Court closer to that of Venezuela, in order to develop and implement a rule of law that guarantees the enjoyment of human rights. Karen Khan emphasized that the signing of the agreement will make it possible to work more closely together.
The agreement that we have signed today is the culmination of our efforts, of all the efforts that you have made and that started in October 2021. The agreement that we had in March 2022 to open an office and that has now been signed. We already have the location of the office. This morning we saw the office, and now we will be able to come more often to Venezuela and work more closely so that we can help Venezuela with technical assistance.
Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro highlighted the signing of the second cooperation and joint work agreement with the International Criminal Court.
In March 2022, we received the visit, and we also had a satisfactory day. And now We have had the third day of work here in Venezuela. Yesterday, early morning, with our teams, throughout the morning and the afternoon. And we have concluded with the signing of the second Memorandum of Cooperation and Joint Work to establish, as decided in such memorandum, an office for technical cooperation of the International Criminal Court prosecutor in Venezuela.
The Bolivarian president also affirmed that the signing of the memorandum is a great step forward for the country.
So I think it is a favorable step forward. A very complete document was drafted. We have achieved a great consensus, and I believe that it has been a favorable consensus as well. Venezuela, as I always tell Prosecutor Karim Khan in our long and intense conversations, is a country no better or worse than any other country in the continent or the world, but a country where we have set ourselves great goals for the construction of an alternative state, a different state, a state where the people are the protagonists.
In Chile, health authorities registered over 1,200 children hospitalized following a respiratory syncytial virus outbreak. The South American nation has been hit by its most severe RSV outbreak in years, killing 4 infants and putting strain on pediatric intensive care unit capacity. According to Chilean Health Minister Ximena Aguilera, the 4 minors died while waiting for a bed because 11 of the country's 29 health centers are at full capacity. Health authorities of Gabriel Bori's government have been strongly criticized by Chilean society, given the situation that is worsening due to the enormous economic and demographic access gaps.
Each infant that dies is a blow for us, and we regret each one of these situations. There are different circumstances, as it has been explained, that of the children that have died. However, for us, it is very regrettable each one of these situations, and we call for not using these cases from a political point of view. It is a regrettable situation for all of us. I believe that it impacts everyone, not only the health authorities, but also the professional teams that treated them, and we sympathize with the grief of the families.
The head of the Healthcare Network Management Division, Dr. Fabiola Jaramillo, reported that there are currently over 1,200 children requiring hospitalization.
We have approximately 1,200 children requiring hospitalization, and out of these, approximately 120 to 200 children move daily in different emergencies and different levels of complexity. Therefore, while the bed is provided and the adjustments are made, a number of hours usually pass. We are working to avoid the waiting time to exceed 6 hours, but there are indeed some specific cases in which they have exceeded 6 hours.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The Landless movement in Brazil has planted 4 tons of seeds from the Usara palm tree, a species at risk of extinction. The environmental action took place in the Dom Tomás Balduino community located in Quedas do Iguaçu, Paraná, and was celebrated by hundreds of people. More than 2,500 families in this region, an area damaged by the impact of companies that have planted pine and eucalyptus trees in monoculture plantations. The Landless movement is fighting for the reforestation of the Mata Atlântica biome, the most affected biome in Brazil, due to the process of urbanization and extractivism promoted by agribusiness in the southeast of the country. The Mata Atlântica is considered the most diverse biome in the country.
My team and I are very happy with the success of the mission, which was completed without any problems. We are also happy to have contributed with so many Usara palm hearts in the area.
Settle in the community, reborn, is a good thing. We can move forward with it. Invest, I found it interesting. Let's see the result.
In Mexico, at least 2 people were killed and another wounded in an exchange of gunfire outside a school in the Tuxtla Gutierrez regions of the state of Chiapas. The incident took place at Octavio Pass School. According to police officers, the victims were killed inside a white van, so they suspect that it may have been a direct attack. So far, it's unknown who the victims and their motorists are. However, it was reported that there was a matter related to local politicians. Meanwhile, the wounded man was taken to a hospital for medical attention. Dozens of worried parents and relatives crowded outside the school, where classes are taught at various levels from kindergarten to pre-university. On Saturday, thousands of Romanian teachers and educators on Friday protested in Bucharest against low pay after 3 weeks of a general strike. Thousands of healthcare workers protested in Bucharest a day earlier, demanding higher wages, more staff, and better working conditions amid what they say are shortfalls that will lead to declining medical service standards. Trade unions are demanding a 25% salary increase for teachers, and the average pay for a junior teacher is approximately $522 per month, under half the national average net pay in the country.
The reason for today's protest is that we are unhappy with our wages. I have my paycheck here, and as you see, 2,724 lei. That is 550 euros. You cannot live with 550 euros. 350 euros only cover the rent. If we add in the other monthly expenses and food, we have to borrow more money or go to our parents in the countryside. There is no other way. We want to be respected because we work very hard.
The reason for today's protest is since we are unhappy with our wages. I have my paycheck here, and as you can see, 2,725 and 24 lei. That is 550 euros. You can now live on 550 euros. 350 euros only cover the rent. If we add in the other monthly expenses and food, we have to borrow more money or go to our parents in the countryside. There is no other way. We want to be respected because we work very hard.
The Russian Central Bank chief Elvira Nabiullina said at a press conference that the world's economy is recovering after the pandemic and returning to the structure it had before the COVID-19. The governor of the central bank stated that the global economy is returning to pre-COVID structure. She also added that demand for services fell abruptly, that demand for goods surged during the pandemic, and that the situation is reversed now. Flash indicators reveal resilient expansion of the economic activity globally on account of the services sector, while dynamics is weaker in the industry. In addition, she pointed out that the strained geopolitical situation also has a strong impact. TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat, dial 461 and enjoy Latin American alternative broadcasts. One final short break, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the South. Russian President Vladimir Putin acknowledged the start of the counteroffensive that Ukraine had been promising for months. The Russian president stressed that Kiev troops have not reached targets anywhere on the front and highlighted the bravery and heroism of the Russian soldiers and the correct organization of the forces. Putin also referred to the shocking Ukrainian casualty figures of the last days, which exceed the usual level, and indicated the coup d'etat of 2014 as the source of power of the Ukrainian regime. For his part, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, summarized in declarations to the German tabloid Bild that the counteroffensive will be felt by all. This week, former U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper said that Western support for Ukraine will be reduced if the counteroffensive against Russian forces does not yield results.
We are seeing significant losses of troops from the Ukrainian regime. It is known that during offensive operations, losses are approximately 3 to 1. It is somewhat classic, but in this case, it significantly exceeds these classical indicators. Intense fighting as I said, has been going on for 5 days. For example, yesterday and the day before yesterday, so the previous 2 days, they were very intense. But the enemy was not successful in any of the sectors.
Russia's defense ministry reported that Russian troops have repelled several Ukrainian attacks near the eastern town of Bakhmut in the south of the Donetsk region and in the Zaporizhia region.
In the Zaporizhia direction, the active operations by the units of the eastern troops, the strikes of the army aviation and artillery, repelled 2 attacks by the enemy with forces up to a battalion, reinforced by tanks, in the direction of the settlements of the Yablonev and Novopokrovka of the Zaporizhia region. In Vremivka, the enemy launched 3 unsuccessful attacks, each with forces up to a motorized infantry company, in the areas of the settlements of Levadnoye in the Zaporizhia region, Storozhve and Neskuchne in the Donetsk People's Republic. All enemy attacks were repelled by the courageous and decisive actions of the units of the eastern troops. The city of Artemox in the Donetsk People's Republic, the active actions of the southern troops successfully repelled 5 enemy attacks in the direction of the settlements of Klishivka, Dubovo-Vasilivka, Jaitne and Andrivka of the Donetsk People's Republic during the past day. No incision into our defenses was allowed.
Somalia's government authorities said rebels from the alshabab group attacked a hotel in Mogadishu on Friday. According to the government statement, the attackers targeted a beach hotel often visited by officials. Several people have been reported injured in the incident. Al-Shabaab, which has been waging an insurgency against the internationally backed federal government for more than 15 years, claimed responsibility for the attack. Hotels have often been targeted in the past as they tend to host high-ranking Somali and foreign officials. The attack raised serious questions about the security forces, who failed to protect a heavily guarded administrative district. The latest attack highlights the endemic security problems in the Horn of Africa region as it struggles to emerge from decades of conflict and natural disasters. In Lebanon, Israeli forces tear gassed farmers while carrying out illegal fencing works, violating the delimitation of the common border. Tensions on the outskirts of the village of Kfar Chuba began when Tel Aviv soldiers carried out excavations in areas on Lebanese territory. Lebanese forces were widely deployed along the so-called Blue Line, which divides the borders between the 2 nations in order to ensure the safety of their nationals. Meanwhile, the Israeli occupation forces for the 3rd consecutive day attempted to carry out regular fortification work by fencing off swaths of Lebanese land of agricultural importance. The Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros warned that cholera outbreak in Haiti could lead to the spread of other diseases such as measles, polio, and tuberculosis. Adhanom expressed that the country's health services are inadequate and urged to reactivate the vaccination campaign started in December 2022. At least 8 people have died of cholera in the southeast of the country during the past week, while in other places the infection rate is on the rise in the middle of the economic crisis that keeps health centers with very limited supplies. Haiti's increase of cholera cases follows the heavy rains and floods that hit the Caribbean nation last week. In Cuba, at least 1 death and over 7,000 evacuated reported in the middle of floods caused by heavy rains affecting Granma's province. According to local authorities, the body of the victim was found in Higuani municipality, one of the most affected areas by heavy rainfall. In addition, it was reported that over 10,000 homes were affected in some way, including flooding, with 65 total landslides and 214 partial ones. Meanwhile, 7,259 residents who were evacuated are sheltered in family and friends' homes, while 211 remain in state institutions. The Cuban President, Miguel Diaz-Canel, ordered the civil defense personnel, the Ministry of the Interior and the Revolutionary Armed Forces to remain deployed to permanently monitor the situation and provide attention to those affected by floods. We have come to the end of this news brief, and you can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.